Throughout the 90s, FUBU expanded fast, going from zero to $350 million in annual sales in just 6 years. But it was a little too fast for Daymond John.
We had great distribution set up, but the learning curve was very difficult because in regards to the urban or young sports arena that we at, nobody else had set another standard. There was Carl Kanai before us and maybe Cross Colors, and Cross Colors did $100 million one year and just blew up. So we had to learn all these things. I was in Asia most of the time, but you know, it was fun, but there was definitely a paranoia because we never thought we would get to that level, so we would constantly work 24 hours a day.
Were you guys profitable at this point or cash flow positive, or was it really just eating back into the revenues?
No, we started becoming cash flow positive right around 98. I believe my deal initially with Samsung, the distribution deal, was we needed to be able to do $5 million in 1 year to be able to still keep the terms of the distribution deal. So we ended up doing $5 million, I think, in 20 days.
How did you decide the terms of those distribution deals, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, what it was is that it's a very funny thing. You know, when Samsung was thinking about doing the deal, they didn't just do the deal right away. So there was so many of these courting and these dating and these meetings that I got frustrated. And basically, we went offline for about a year with each other. By the time they called me back, I was so desperate for a deal, but so frustrated with them that I kind of said, you know, don't call me back. I was negotiating out of ignorance and out of anger. And they ended up giving me more of a profitable deal. But I had an attorney who set a deal up that was today what I believe is beyond anybody else's deal.
How did you decide where to manufacture your clothes?
That's the biggest part of business, is distribution and financing. And once you have that and you're with partners who have done this, you know, for a long period of time, you can start picking those areas. So at that time, you know, due to government restrictions or anything else, Korea and Guatemala were the first places of production. You know, at that time, that's not really the market to go to now anymore. But we would go also where, in fashion, you go where your product is made best. So lower end denim was going to be made out of Turkey and Jordan, and you know, you have higher end denim in Japan, and then you have the medium in China and best washes. So those all dictated what factories we would use.
How did you learn that stuff, Daymond?
You had to learn it by you know, reading a lot first of all, but a lot of hands-on. You know, there were a lot of pieces and product that we couldn't get away with today that we got away with then. It was new to everybody, and there was very little competition at that time. So we can make those mistakes. What
was the biggest failure that you've learned from?
I think the biggest failure in those initial years were to listen to all the buyers. You know, every buyer or customer always dictates what they want from you. But in fashion, you have to be ahead of the curve. And when we started to listen to those people, we started to be behind the curve because they were telling us what they want because they just went to this showroom, went to that showroom. By the time we get that out a year later, it's passé, it's old. So we had to take a stance sometimes and turn down a large amount of money and orders or even ruin the relationship with the buyer because we wouldn't give in to what they wanted to do. And that was a learning curve because initially we did it, it hurt the company, and then we had to change, you know, and not be on our heels the rest of the time.
In that industry at this time, what are the margins like?
I would think a healthy margin is going to be 60 points in the business because after you obviously pay everything out and you take in returns and everything else, you're going to clear hopefully a good 20, 25 points.
And is that still the case today?
A healthy business would be 60 points, unless obviously if you're going the mass, the Targets and the Walmarts, they work on such small margins, but it's such big you know, quantities that you would go down on the
Was it
points.
easy to achieve that at that point?
It was very easy to achieve in the beginning. You know, 60 points was easy because we had little competition. So we probably managed to keep those 60 points up until around 2001, 2002, when we started seeing excess inventory and declining of margin. That's when we decided to pull out of the United States.
Why did you guys fail in the U.S. at that point?
First of all, we made guys order a pre-pack in the business. So that means you get 2 sizes 32, 2 34, 4 36, whatever cases, up to 42. Once you make a store get a pre-pack, and they sell the bread and butter ones between 34 to 38, they now have to take in that other inventory and potentially go discount it. Second of all, we went into stores that may not have been the best for us because the orders were good. They were big retailers, and we supported them, and the cool kid would stop wearing it after that point. But I think that the biggest thing is that The lifeline of a clothing company is 3 to 5 years, and I think that the kids basically were like, I have 10 years of FUBU in my closet. Now there's a new brand coming out by somebody I respect, like Sean John or Jay-Z, who are fashionable before they were designers. They're just going to try something new.
What did you learn from that experience of building the culture?
First of all, it's a big world, and it's really hard to get the same message out to everyone. I think that the African Americans really just held it so tight to their chest and was so proud of the product that they went out and waved that flag.
FUBU is growing up. In 2010, Daymond John launched FB Legacy, a new high-end fashion label. Up next, John talks about capitalizing on the success of the original brand.